You're all doomed. You're all doomed. What is going on, everyone? James Grimm here. Today we are going to be doing the official ranking, my official ranking of all the Friday the 13th movies. This includes the remake, and also this includes Freddy vs. Jason. But before we get started, I want you to go ahead and hit that little button right there that says subscribe. That will ensure that you'll see all future content, and plus I appreciate all support given to my channel. And to kick this ranking off with number 12, we are going to go with Jason Goes to Hell, The Final Friday. Jason Goes to Hell is a movie that is not even fun to watch, and you don't even get to see the main character, Jason, through most of the movie itself. The only thing that really sold this movie was this. Either that it was titled The Final Friday because people wanted to see what was going to happen, to see if it was going to be an epic end, or they just wanted to finally see this franchise die. Unfortunately, this was not The Final Friday. It had a very terrible follow-up called Jason X, and then it had a really terrible crossover titled Freddy vs. Jason. And don't worry, I will get to those films in just a moment, and I would actually shed some positive light on them. Alright, now moving on to number 11, it will be Friday the 13th Part 8. Jason Takes a Yacht. Jason Takes a Boat. Jason Takes a Cruise? Jason Takes Manhattan, even though he took more time on a boat on the way to New York than he did actually in New York. To be very honest, I don't have much to say about this film. It's a film I never really enjoyed. It's really actually painful to put on. You know what, you would think that this would actually be my number 12, but Jason Goes to Hell is dead last for the simple fact that it says the title is called Jason Goes to Hell, and Jason is hardly in the fucking movie. I mean, the character, the look of Jason is hardly in the movie, you know. Him jumping bodies here and there, changing the lore, this and that, I wasn't into. But Jason Takes Manhattan is a little bit better in regards that we actually see a lot more of Jason, and the kills are okay. I liked when he has the dude upside down and he's all just shaking him all around. When he punches the dude's head off the building. There were some pretty cool moments in this movie, but otherwise, I don't have much more to say about this film. It's a film I really don't find too enjoyable, and actually, when I put into the Xbox and I'm watching it, I'm just like, how is this my brother's favorite Friday the 13th movie? And Grindhouse Grotto, how is this one of your favorites? This whole list is just my personal opinions, so just realize that if you like this movie, I'm not bashing you. You like what you like. I'm just telling you what I don't like. Anyways, moving on to the next one. Now moving on to number 10, we have Friday the 13th Part 7, The New Blood. Part 7, The New Blood, definitely has one of my favorite looks of Jason. I really like the way his face looks when he, in Part 6, when he gets his face grinded into the boat's motor, and then in this one you just see like his teeth and half the mask is missing up. Well, not half the mask, but there's a portion of the mask that's missing up here, and he just looks so like soaking wet and oily and gross, similar to that of Part 8, but I think this one looks much better. You can see the bones in the back of his shirt and everything. It looks just so amazing. Just because Jason looks cool doesn't mean that it's a good movie. I think it's cool that they try to think outside the box and give us something that Jason has never come in contact with prior to this movie, which is someone with telekinesis, and she uses it to fight back, and she uses it pretty good. You know, she lights him on fire. In the end, her dad comes back to life, and he saves the day. If I'm spoiling anything for you, you are many, many years too late. I will say that the light fixture to the face, which causes him to fly through the stairs, I think that was a little bit too exaggerated, though. I'm going to make this very clear right now. Friday the 13th is definitely not one of my favorite franchises of horror. Yes, it's one of the it's part of the holy or unholy trinity of Halloween and Nightmare on Elm Street, and you have Friday the 13th. And I do love Friday the 13th movies, but when they're bad, they're pretty bad. So in the end, I really don't like this movie, but I feel it's better than, say, Jason Takes a Cruise, or Jason Goes to Hell but somehow comes back and then goes to space, and then somehow he's back to Earth, and he's back in hell, and then he's fighting Freddy. So anyways, let's move on to number 9. So number 9 on this list is going to go to Jason X, Jason X is a little higher than maybe most people would rank it as. I have a little bit more biased for it based on the fact that it was the first Friday the 13th I had seen in theaters. I had seen it actually released the day before my birthday. I saw it on my birthday, and I enjoyed it very much. I got to see it with my brother and my mother. Both are horror fans, So in the end, I'm a little bit more biased in regards to where I rank this, because there is some entertaining moments in this movie, but it definitely dives away from anything else prior to it. It's very different. I have to give them credit for trying something new, but at the same time, it could have been executed much better. With that being said, I think Uber Jason looks freaking sweet. In the end, this movie has some enjoyable moments. There are some fun moments. I think some of the dialogue is very cringy. I think it could have been executed a little bit better. If it had a little bit, a bigger budget, it could have been done very well. Kane Hodder was pretty awesome. I think the scene where he takes the girl, and puts her head into the I don't know what it is, cryogenic frost, whatever it is, and then just pulls her face out, and her face is all fucking mangled, and he just smashes it on the counter. I thought that was really awesome as well. So some of the kills were really cool. The movie has some good parts, has some terrible parts, some terrible acting, but which one of these movies has great acting, But in the end, it's not the best. So let's move on to number 8. My number 8 is going to get a lot of hate because it is a fan favorite, but for me, I'm not a big fan of it. So number 8 is going to be Jason Lives. See, Jason Lives is a good Friday the 13th film, but it's not a great one. And that's my opinion. This whole list is my opinion. But I've never been able to gravitate towards that film. I didn't like the opening of the film. I don't like how Jason came back. I don't like the actors in the film. I thought everyone seemed artificial. Nothing seemed real. There was one good scene in the whole movie, and that's when the RV tipped over and Jason's standing on top of it, like he's the fucking king of the hill. That was the coolest thing. But I really don't like much more of this film. There was hardly anything I really enjoyed about this film. I don't have much more to say about it. I mean, it's a good film overall. It was directed well, stylistically, and even the way it felt, the pacing of the film. It just what's odd about Jason Lives is it doesn't necessarily feel like a Friday the 13th film to me. It seems like after A New Beginning was done, when they moved on from A New Beginning, these movies started taking a whole different turn stylistically, and everything just felt much more different. That's how I feel when I watch this movie. I don't feel like I'm watching... I feel like I'm watching a Friday the 13th movie with Jason in it, but there's something that's not there that I feel like is totally missing. Next on this list is going to be Freddy vs. Jason, and this is actually surprisingly higher than I think it should be. But there is this little bit of love, extra love I have for the film, because similar to Jason X, I saw Freddy vs. Jason in the theater, and at the time as a kid, I really enjoyed it. You get to see two iconic characters, horror characters, have a crossover, and they fight it out to the death, And in the end, it's like... It was cool. I don't think they picked the right director, and I don't think they picked the right Jason. I really feel like it needed to be Kane Hodder. It needed to be Robert Englund versus Kane Hodder. That would have been Freddy vs. Jason to me. I think with Freddy vs. Jason, the structure, the initial way that they planned this out to make these two iconic characters meet up was done okay. Like how they decided to be like, oh, how do these two people meet, or how do these two characters meet? That was fine. But then you have these side things where Jason's in Springwood and he's killing all these people, and there's so many bad actors, and then you have this guy who's this wannabe Jason Mew from Jay and Silent Bob, and then you just have so many bad characters, so many bad actors. There is not enough of anything in this film to make me fucking fall in love with any of these characters. And when I say fall in love, when you watch Scream, you fall in love with Gale and Dewey and Sydney. You love these characters. With Halloween, it's Dr. Loomis and Laurie Strode and Jamie Lloyd. With this film, I just didn't care about any of the characters in the movie. They could have all died, and I just wouldn't care. This film needed some Craven influence, much more than it had. I didn't like the way they tried to portray a killer such as Jason as being the good guy. I didn't like it. Don't get me wrong. The action sequences, the fight scenes between Jason and Freddy, those are pretty brutal. Those are pretty gruesome. I really liked it. But in the end, the overall story, the overall movie is just not a good watch, and it's hard to even watch today. There's a good portion of the movie I like to watch, and there's the other portion of the movie I just would prefer to fast forward through. But anyways, let's move on to the next one. So number 6 on this list is going to go to Friday the 13th Part 1. Friday the 13th Part 1 is a movie that's, when you think of Halloween, you think of Phantasm, Scream, A Nightmare on Elm Street, all of these, Hellraiser maybe even, you think of all these movies that spawn a franchise. The Texas Chainsaw Massacre, Saw, all these movies. And usually Part 1 is highly regarded as like the top shit. At least it's most of the time it is. But with Friday the 13th, I feel like Friday the 13th was not that great of a film, but I feel that it definitely deserves recognition because of the fact that it spawned a franchise. It gave us a horror character like Jason Voorhees, who's iconic as hell in the horror movie world, and we have to tip our hats off to the movie itself and the influence it had for other movies as well. But in the end, the movie really doesn't get good until the final 30 minutes of the film. Everything prior to that, I really don't have any interest in. It's definitely a movie I have very little love for and no hate for. I love the fact that, like I said just a moment ago, it spawned a character like Jason Voorhees, who's iconic, in which we wouldn't have all these sequels of these films that we do love without this one, without Pamela Voorhees killing all of those counselors. So, it's a cool movie. It's not a great movie by any means, but it is responsible for many movies that came afterwards. Alright, let's move on to number 5. Friday the 13th Part 5 is a pretty good film. I've seen a lot of hate for this film, but honestly, the Hawk is awesome, Roy is a badass, and overall this film feels like a Friday the 13th film. It feels... This is why Jason Lives isn't high up on my list as it can be, because I felt that the tone was very much a departure in comparison to, say, 5, 4, 3, 2, and even 1. I thought this film was done well. It felt very much like a Friday the 13th film. I like Tommy Jarvis's character in this one much more than, say, Part 6. I like how he was sort of a badass, except when he came face to face with Roy, he kind of just gave up, he was just too traumatized. But I really wanted to see a physical altercation between Roy, who we all think is Jason in this film. At least some of us, I would assume, knew that this doesn't seem right. The bill's different, the coveralls, Michael Myers cosplaying and shit. See, when I was growing up, this is one of the top Friday the 13th films, in my opinion, when I was growing up. I love this film. When I watch Friday the 13th, when I think of Friday the 13th, I think of 2 through 5. Those were my movies, And this film, even though it's I believe it's directed by a pornographic director, he was able to capture the spirit of Friday the 13th, and it felt like a Friday the 13th film. And overall, I think it's an enjoyable film, even though Jason's not technically in it until the last minute and in the beginning, where it was just all flashbacks / hallucinations. In the end, good movie. I really enjoy this movie, and I am surprised by all the hate that I've seen it have. So moving on to number 4, we have Friday the 13th Part 2. Yes, Friday the 13th Part 2, which is highly regarded by a big portion of the fan base, and even myself. I love that movie. I really enjoy the movie. Through Sackhead Jason, in my opinion, it's almost as iconic as him donning the hockey mask, in future installments. Trust me when I say that ranking this movie this low or high, depends how you look at it, it was tough. Friday the 13th Part 2 is a really good film. It's a good classic. It's a much better film than its predecessor in the Friday the 13th Part 1 from 1980. It was much better in my opinion. But at the same time, it's like the next few films I'm going to be naming had qualities that I gravitated towards a little bit more than, say, this film. And while I do like this film, I like The Final Girl. I thought the acting was pretty good in the film. I thought that the story was very well done. I liked how they killed Alice in the beginning and continued from that story and then put an end to it. I really enjoyed this film overall. Putting it here is not easy, like I said before, but it had to be done, and it is what it is. So let's move on to number 3. So number 3 on this list is going to be Friday the 13th Part 3. It was quite hard choosing between Part 3 and Part 2 which one to rank higher and lower. In the end, Friday the 13th Part 3 was one of my favorite Friday the 13th growing up. It's the movie where he gets his infamous hockey mask, and I really feel that this film was slightly less superior than, say, Part 2. It started to go in a different direction because it's not necessarily a camp that they're at anymore, but at the same time, I really feel like this movie captured everything that the first one did and the second one did, and I really think that the portrayal of Jason was really crazy. When you see this guy he's pretty built and he's pretty scary and he has a fucked up face, and you see him running at you, you're just like, God, that's terrifying. That's more terrifying than a dude just walking at you with a knife. This dude is straight up running at you. Running. Look, I understand that he ran in Part 2 as well, but there's something about Part 3. It might be just because I grew up with this film and watched this film a lot. It was literally it was Part 2 through 5 I watched the most, but it was Part 3 and 4 that I watched more than those. So Part 3 has always had a special place in my heart, and that's why I have it where it's at currently. And like I said before, it's the movie where he dons his iconic mask, and that's what was used in future installments, and that's what we know Jason most for. So that's just my number 3. So let's move on to number 2. So the next movie on my list is going to be Friday the 13th, 2009. And I think this is a movie that fans are slowly but surely coming around to. When this released in 2009, I believe it might have released on Valentine's Day or around there. I remember seeing this with my then girlfriend and just being like, oh dude, this movie is just great. This movie is super fun. This movie had everything that I wanted in a Friday the 13th movie. It took the first 4 movies, it took them, and you made a fucking sandwich out of them, and they took the best parts of each movie and they put it into one film. Look, I love Richard Brooker's performance as Jason. Do not get me wrong, I love his performance. But there was something so, I don't know, natural with Derek Mears playing Jason. I would compare Derek Mears to playing Jason as I would to James Jude Courtney playing Michael Myers. Jason was brutal in this film. Everything felt much more realistic to me. I felt like this is something that could totally happen. You have Jason who's living on the land, who has his underground kind of like tunnels and things like that. It seems like it could actually fucking happen. It's definitely one of my favorite remakes that have ever been made. I made a remake video many months ago, and this I believe came into the top 3 or 4, and it was really hard for me to place it where it's at. But recently, or just yesterday, I watched the movie again, and I was just like, wow, it's a good movie. It's a great movie. I love this film. I don't understand the hate for it. People, maybe it's Trent, and I've been coming around on Trent's character. He totally comes off as a total piece of shit, total douchebag, total dick. But in the end, it's like, oh man, I like this guy. He kind of comes off as a douchebag, but his character allows the film to have that extra dynamic of all these nice people with this total douchebag. In the end, I would really love to see a sequel to this movie, a direct sequel to it. I love what they did with the film. They made it their own while still carrying on the story, the legacy of the character, and the lore core of Friday the 13th slash Jason Voorhees and Pamela Voorhees, you know, the Voorhees members, you know, mom and son. I think that they did a really good job with that. They took 4 movies, they mashed it into one, and they made a really awesome film. Why they aren't going to make a direct sequel is beyond me. But like Derek Mears' portrayal as Jason when he has the rap head and then he gets the hockey mask. The hockey mask was great, man. It looked just like he was. My buddy Grindhouse Grotto said it the best. Like he was rolling around in the mud. Friday the 13th, 2009 gets not that much love, and it deserves the recognition. It absolutely does. Of course, this video is based on my thoughts and my opinions alone, so if you disagree, that is totally fine. And now we are moving on to our number 1, which is Friday the 13th Part 4, the final chapter. Ted White took what Richard Brooker had done with Part 3, and he turned him into something else. It's almost like the beginning of Zombie Jason. You know, you see he's walking with a purpose. He is fucking shit up. His nails look all longer and they look all dark and gross and gritty and grimy. He just looks like he is on a mission to fuck shit up. Not only that, but we have Corey Feldman, we have Crispin Glover, and you know, I'm not gonna do the dance for you on here right now. You know, I don't think I'm prepared for that, but that dance is pretty memorable. Ted White did something with Jason that made him utterly scary. I think it was just his walk. Overall, his walk. He looked like he was on a mission. He had a sense of purpose. He was just no longer taking shit. You know, he took an axe to the fucking head the movie prior, and he's done taking bullshit. You know, it's one of the best horror films I have ever watched. Personal opinion, but me, I'm not one of those people who watch obscure kind of movies. I am, honestly, I'm going to be very honest because I don't mind being honest. I'm more of a mainstream horror type of person. I like to watch a movie with a budget. This film was done incredibly well, and I believe from most people I talk to who are big Friday the 13th fans, this is highly regarded as either the best Friday the 13th movie or it is one of the best, like top 2, top 3 type shit. Up until the 2009 movie, Jason from Part 4 was the scariest version of Jason. It was the scariest iteration of Jason that I thought. And this is just, like I said before, and I'm going to continue to say this, this is just my opinions. But there's something that Ted White brought to the character that was very menacing and very scary for me, especially as a young child, and that has stuck with me till this day. There you have it. 12 movies, only one Jason has played the part more than one time. So, very cool. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. It's been a long video. We're here at over 22 minutes now, and this has been very fun. You know, I wish I could have dived into this a little deeper, but honestly, this thing would have probably taken me to 35-40 minutes. So I definitely had to cut this down a little bit. But I hope you enjoyed this video. Let me know in the comment section down below what your ranking is. And don't forget, if you're new to this channel, go ahead and hit the subscribe button. All support is greatly appreciated. It helps me continue to grow this channel. It helps out for future giveaways, things like that, you know. So thank you so much for watching this video. Let me know once again down below what your thoughts are. My name is James Grimm. I will catch you in the next video. Take care and have a happy Friday the 13th. Have a great night. Peace out.